don't care about the consequence. I don't care about the
Hello, hello. Welcome to or welcome back to another episode of Boss Up and Glow Up with Lexi Sample. We are always here talking about mental health, how to glow up, relationships, friendships, and how to just be your best overall version of yourself that you can possibly be. Because that's what we're doing. All we're doing here is glowing the fuck up, and we're going to do it together. Okay, so we need to talk about something that a lot of people think is a positive personality trait, something that people praise all the time, and that's people pleasing. And I already know some of you are probably listening thinking, well, what's wrong with being nice to people? Because that's usually how people interpret it. People pleasing gets disguised as kindness. Being easygoing, being supportive, being the person who always shows up for others. You hear things like, she's so nice, she's so easy to get along with, they're so selfless, they never cause any problems. And those things sound good in theory. Those things sound like compliments. But what I want to talk about today is the difference between genuine kindness and people pleasing because they are not the same, not even close, but they can kind of disguise as one another. Kindness is when you choose to care about others while still respecting yourself. People pleasing is when you abandon yourself to keep other people comfortable. And that difference is huge. A lot of people who identify as people pleasers believe they're just being good people. They believe they're just being supportive friends, good partners, good family members. They think they're just trying to avoid drama or conflict. But what's actually happening underneath the surface is that they are slowly teaching themselves that their own needs, feelings, and boundaries matter less than everyone else's. And over time, that becomes incredibly damaging because when you constantly prioritize people over your own well being, you're essentially manipulating your own life. You're shaping your choices, your time, and your energy around what keeps other people happy instead of what actually aligns with your values and your needs. And eventually, that creates a life where you don't even feel like yourself anymore. So, today we're going to talk about why people pleasing happens, why it feels so hard to stop, and why it's actually a form of manipulating yourself in ways that most people don't even realize. Because once you see the pattern clearly, it becomes much easier to start changing it. Let's start by breaking down what people pleasing actually looks like because it's not always obvious. People pleasing doesn't always look like dramatic or ridiculous. Sometimes it shows up in really small, everyday moments. It's saying yes to something when your immediate internal reaction was no. I actually, oh my gosh, I had this moment today. So, okay, let me give you an example. So, my work schedule is like rotating weekends, okay? And this weekend is my weekend off. Love that. Super excited for having my weekend off. They call me, they're like, Lexi, can you pick up a shift either Saturday or Sunday? And I really did not want to. Obviously, my internal reaction is hell no. Like, this is my weekend off. Like, I want to enjoy it because guess what? Next weekend, I have to come in. It's not like you're going to have me work this weekend and then I get off next weekend. And I felt bad for not wanting to go to work. I felt bad. Why? Because I want to help. I want to help the staff because they're clearly understaffed. Because why else would I have to pick up, but I don't want to. And I said no, but I really felt bad. So that is a form of people pleasing. It's agreeing with someone even though you have a completely different opinion. It's apologizing when you actually didn't do anything wrong. That one is huge, especially in relationships, because sometimes you're dating somebody who is kind of a manipulator or a narcissist and you wanna keep them in your life because you're trauma bonded or you're emotionally attached to them. You can't leave them for whatever reason it may be, but you get in a fight and they did something to hurt you, but you apologize because you wanna please them and you don't want them to get mad at you. That is a form of people pleasing. It is over explaining yourself because you're afraid someone might misunderstand you. It's constantly trying to keep the peace even when something is bothering you. And the reason people pleasing is so tricky is because on the outside, it looks like you're just being considerate over other people's feelings, but internally, what's actually happening is anxiety. You're scanning the room for other people's reactions, you're adjusting your behavior based on what will keep things smooth. You're making decisions based on how someone might feel rather than what you genuinely want. And over time, that creates this pattern where your choices stop reflecting your true self. They start reflecting what you think other people expect from you. The problem with that is it disconnects you from your own authenticity. You stop trusting your instincts. You stop expressing your real thoughts. You start performing a version of yourself that feels safer to other people. And when you do that long enough, you start to lose clarity about who you actually are. People pleasing can make you completely lose yourself. Trust me, been there, done that, y'all. One of the reasons people pleasing is so deeply ingrained for many people is because it often starts in childhood, like everything else, always starts in childhood. When we're kids, we learn how to navigate relationships by observing what keeps us safe and expected. If a child grows up in an environment where conflict feels unpredictable or overwhelming, they might learn that the best way to protect themselves is just by keeping everybody happy. They become very aware of other people's moods. They learn to anticipate reactions. They adjust their behavior to avoid upsetting others, and that becomes their survival strategy. Maybe they learn that being the good kid earned them approval. Maybe they notice that when they express disagreement, it caused tension in the household. Maybe they felt responsible for keeping the emotional balance of the family. So they developed a habit of smoothing things over. And again, that strategy might have actually worked in that environment. It might have helped them feel safer or more accepted. But the issue with that is that the brain doesn't automatically update those patterns when you become an adult. So the same coping mechanisms that once protected you can start creating problems for you later in life, which is why it's not going to work as an adult because in adult relationships, constantly prioritizing everyone else's emotions over your own creates imbalance. You end up carrying emotional weight and responsibility that isn't even yours. You feel like you need to keep everyone happy. You feel guilty when someone else is upset. You feel anxious about disappointing other people. And those feelings can make it very difficult to express boundaries. And when I say people pleasing becomes self manipulation, this is why. And this is part of the conversation that can feel very uncomfortable because you don't want to think you're manipulating yourself, but you are. And this is an important conversation. So, people pleasing isn't just about other people, y'all. It's about how you treat yourself. When you people please, you start manipulating your own behavior in the way that disconnects you from the truth. You ignore your intuition, you silence your needs, you convince yourself that something doesn't bother you when it actually does. You're minimizing your feelings because you want to avoid making someone else upset or uncomfortable. And each time you do that, you're sending yourself a subtle message. You're saying, my needs aren't important. My voice is less valuable. My comfort comes second to everything. And over time, those messages shape your self perception. You begin to believe that advocating for yourself is selfish. You begin to believe that your boundaries are unreasonable. You begin to believe that your role in relationships is to accommodate everybody else. And it's not that way. It doesn't have to be that way. And that belief system can slowly erode your confidence because when you're consistently adjusting yourself for others, you never fully experience what it feels like to show up authentically. You're always filtering yourself, you're always changing your reactions, always managing how you're perceived. And that level of emotional labor is exhausting. And it also prevents people from really getting to know the real you because the version of yourself that they see is based around their comfort, not yours. One of the most common consequences of people pleasing is resentment. And this part is what confuses a lot of people because they'll think, why do I feel resentful when I'm the one choosing to help? But the key word there is choosing. When your choices are driven by fear rather than genuine desire, they don't feel empowering. They feel draining. And people pleasers often give a lot of their time, their energy, and their emotional support. They show up for people, they listen, they help, they accommodate. And for a while, that might feel rewarding. But if those actions consistently come at the expense of their own well being, resentment starts building beneath the surface. They might start thinking, why am I always the one doing everything? Why does nobody check on me? Why do people take advantage of my kindness? But this is why people cannot respect boundaries that are never communicated. And I learned that in so many different ways. Let me think of an example. I mean, I've had a few relationships where I've been the people pleaser. I've been the friend that's been the people pleaser. So I'll give you two examples. So I had this ex who wanted me to do like a bunch of shit that I was not comfortable with doing. I personally did not want to do it, but I didn't want to lose that person, of course. So you know, my ass was gonna just do whatever it took to keep that person in my life. So I would do things that I was not okay with, and then it became more and more and more. Like he was pushing the boundaries because I kept caving because I wanted that person in my life. And that is not okay, and eventually, I started to hate that person. There's when the resentment comes in. I started to resent that person. I also started to resent myself because I was like, "Why am I constantly choosing this person over myself? Why am I doing that?" It's kind of embarrassing, honestly. People pleasing is embarrassing, so we need to change that, and I'm not saying that to be a bitch because I have been in that situation. I'm literally telling you I've been in that situation. And I had a friend who did shit like that too, where they only needed me to vent and then that's it. But if I ever needed anything, oh my gosh, crickets, crickets, nowhere to be fucking found. So that's another way of people pleasing where someone just comes to you whenever they need something. And then when you need something, ghost town. And again, people can't respect the boundaries that are never communicated. So if you haven't set that boundary, they're gonna cross the boundary. If you're consistently saying yes when you want to say no, people will assume that that yes is genuine and they won't realize that internally you're feeling overwhelmed. And that's why honest communication is so fucking important because it prevents relationships from becoming one sided. You know that person that you've been constantly in some type of situationship with that won't claim you as their girlfriend or their boyfriend, but still don't want you to do anything or talk to other people? That's one-sided. You're settling because you don't wanna lose that person, but they're just walking all over you because they know that you're gonna tolerate it and they know that you're gonna deal with it. So if you let somebody put you through all this shit and you stay, you're showing them that you're okay with that. You're showing them that you're okay with not being claimed. And that's embarrassing. Again, that is so embarrassing. Why do you want that for yourself? You don't wanna look stupid. I've looked stupid before. I've been in that situation before, and I was so embarrassed looking back. I was like, "Damn, I look so dumb. I look like a clown." And I got out of that situation, thank God, but it did take a while. It did take me to be really fucking strong and set boundaries, but if you're in that situation, get the fuck out of it because I'm sorry, but it's embarrassing, and I don't want that for you. I want better for you, and I know you want better for you, and you know you deserve better. So stop people pleasing when you really don't want to and you really are not okay with it. If they won't claim you, walk the fuck away. Like, what's the point? Be with someone who claims you. Ugh, no, we're not doing that anymore. That is so embarrassing. Anyway, we need to talk about how to break this pattern because breaking people pleasing habits does not happen overnight. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick because it requires you to tolerate something that might feel so uncomfortable because you don't want to leave people, you don't want to disappoint people, and that can feel scary, especially if you're used to maintaining harmony at all costs. But disappointing someone doesn't automatically mean that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it just means you're honoring your own needs. And one of the most helpful practices is learning to pause before automatically saying yes. Because sometimes you know you want to say no, but you're so used to saying yes. Sometimes if you just take a pause and think, hold on, do I really want this? Am I really okay with this? Just sometimes taking one extra second can help you instead of immediately agreeing to someone. Give yourself time to think. Like, just ask yourself questions. Do I actually want to do this? Do I have the energy for this right now? Am I exhausted? Am I saying yes because I want to or because I'm afraid of saying no? And that pause allows you to make decisions that align with your well being. And over time, those small choices build confidence because every time you honor your boundaries, you are reinforcing the belief that your needs matter too. Because they do. If you're constantly letting people walk over you, it's just never gonna stop. The more you allow, the more they're gonna take advantage. And that's annoying. We don't wanna keep doing that. I've been in that situation so many fucking times, and now, you know what? Maybe people think I'm a cold-hearted bitch. But you know what? I would rather people think I'm a cold-hearted bitch than people think that they can just take advantage of me and use me for whatever the case may be. I'd rather them think that. And that is why I cut so many people off in the past 2 years because they would push my boundaries, and I finally put my fucking foot down and you know what? Think I'm mean. I don't give a fuck because I'm going to put my needs and my boundaries before anything and anyone. And that's growth. It takes time. It took me like a year to do it, but I did it. And that's all that fucking matters is I actually did it and you can too, but it starts small. So at least just pause before you fucking react because just think if you're actually okay with it. And if you're not, that is okay. It's fine, but you need to get out of that situation because then it's just embarrassing. If you've been someone who struggles with people pleasing, I want you to understand that this pattern did not develop because you're weak. It developed for a reason. It developed because at some point it helped you navigate relationships, or as you were a child, it helped you navigate childhood. It helped you feel accepted. It helped you maintain peace in situations that might have felt unstable. But just because a coping strategy that helps you in the past, that does not mean it'll serve you today at all. Everything expires, and that coping strategy has expired. Learning to express your needs is important. Learning to set boundaries is important. Learning to tolerate other people's disappointment is important. Those things are not selfish, they are necessary for healthy relationships because the healthiest relationships are built on honesty and mutual respect. You're not going to have a healthy relationship if you're doing things that you're not okay with just because the other person wants that. Settling is never going to make a relationship healthy. It's not. It's just going to blow up in your face, to be honest with you. Not on one person constantly sacrificing themselves to keep everyone else comfortable. That's not good. And when you stop manipulating your own needs just to maintain approval, something powerful happens. So fucking powerful. You start living more authentically. You start trusting yourself more. And the relationships that remain in your life become much more healthier. Want to know why? Because they're built on the real version of you, not the version that you made up because you were trying to please everybody else. Think about that. I want to thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Boss Up and Glow Up. I really hoped this made you realize that if you are constantly people pleasing, doing things that you're not comfortable with just to please somebody else, you are manipulating yourself. You are embarrassing yourself. And I really hope that I got this message across to you so you can at least try to make the changes. Again, it's not going to happen overnight. It is not easy to do, but if you are aware of it, you can change it. So I hope this kind of put this in your head so you are aware if you're people pleasing or if you actually want to do something amazing. But don't keep saying yes because somebody else wants you to say yes. Don't keep putting yourself in situations because somebody else wants you to do it. Do what you want to do. Do what you're okay with. We are not embarrassing ourselves anymore. We're not doing it. We're not dealing with shit that we really don't want to do. We know what we deserve, and we are going to get what we deserve. We just need to set boundaries. Thank you so much for listening. I love you so, so, so much, and I will see you next week.